Monica McNutt, Frank Isola. First, it was thumbs down, then a thrilling win, thumbs up for that. But in the celebration, Javier Baez lost an earring. So the grounds crew and team president Sandy Alderson had to look for the earring. And the question is, did an ear solve the thumb problem? Let's go.
Mina always loses her earring. She celebrates her wins on her own.
We'll get to that all in a second. First, whether vaccination status played into NFL roster cuts. It's a point of contention with the NFLPA. It's a focus in Jacksonville with Urban Meyer saying it certainly was in consideration. And then the team then releasing a statement afterwards saying no player was released because they were vaccinated or weren't vaccinated. And it's a wonder in New England with the Patriots and Cam Newton. Bill Belichick was asked the question, and here's what he said.
Did Cam's vaccination status have anything to do with him being released?
No. The number of players and coaches and staff members that have, been infected by COVID in this training camp who have been vaccinated is a pretty high number. So I wouldn't lose sight of that.
Mina Kimes, around the horn to you. How do you hear that? What is perception here and what is reality?
Well, let's start with reality. Bill talked about players, coaches who are vaccinated testing positive. The NFL has released the numbers on this just in the month of August, and those numbers show that the people, players, again, staffers, who are unvaccinated are 7 times more likely to test positive. Bill Belichick. And that reflects society, right? We know if you get the shot, you're less likely to get infected and you're significantly less likely to get seriously ill. Another fact is that the NFL Players Association and the league agreed before the season that unvaccinated players who test positive have to miss 10 days. And that means they're probably going to miss a game, right? And so if they are vaccinated and test positive, you can get back in a lot quicker with a couple of negative tests in 24 hours. That, everything I just said, is the reality of the situation. And because that, we know that what Urban Meyer said is the truth. He just wasn't supposed to say it, but he communicated something that you're hearing from reporters around the league, players, coaches, GMs. Everyone is saying, we know if you're unvaccinated, it inhibits your availability. I don't doubt that Bill Belichick is being honest when he says they released Cam for other reasons. I think other reasons played a bigger role. But his other statement about, vaccinated players, coaches, whatever, testing positive, well, it's simply misleading and I think unhelpful given the situation.
So then, to get to the crux of the NFLPA investigation into Jacksonville and Urban Meyer's comments here, we know how the NFL incentivized getting a vaccine. What do you think is going to play out with this investigation?
I think there'll probably be some sort of slap on the wrist. And the PA is just doing their job, which is representing the players based on the agreements that they've made for the season. They do want the players to get vaccinated, but they also have to defend them. And this comes up all the time with the Players Association in every issue. Again, with Urban Meyer, he told the truth. His only mistake was saying it in public. And when he was a college coach, he didn't have to deal with the Players Association. Now he does.
We'll bring Israel Gutierrez in here.
You know what else is reality, Tony, is that most football coaches I know aren't trying to save the world. They're not trying to solve the pandemic. They're just trying to get through their football season. And based on this rules, because of this virus, because of this pandemic, there are rules in place that make it easier for an unvaccinated player to miss a game. That's it. That's pretty much all they're thinking. And so you check the right box when it says, hey, this is why you're getting released. But in your mind, it's just, hey, we're rolling the dice here. We have better odds of keeping our full roster with vaccinated players. So if there's a decision that's very close, you make that. You just don't make the mistake, as Mina said, of Urban saying it out loud.
Monica McNutt.
I mean, I'm kind of asleep on this, Tony. Like, literally could be on my pillow asleep because this is such a duh moment to me. If the PA really wanted to do something, then perhaps there's a world in which they worked on a different set of protocols for unvaccinated guys before we got to this point. But to act as if coaches are not acknowledging availability being the best availability, and Mina mentioned the 10 plus the 3 days for non-vaccinated folks in terms of going through another protocol, it's 13 total days. Come on, man. I can't do anything with you if I can't put you on the field. This is a no-brainer.
And Frank Isola.
I do like Urban Meyer, first year as an NFL head coach, saying the out loud part out loud. You're not supposed to say that that's what you're factoring in, but you know that the statement covers them because they're saying, well, hang on a second. We do have unvaccinated players on the roster. So that, to me, with the union, they're not going to get in trouble. Bill Belichick handled it the right way. You ask him the question, what do you think he's going to say? Well, kind of. We did factor it in. Of course he's going to say no. And I'm sure it was a small factor, but we know that Bill Belichick's number one factor is winning. And he must think that Zach Jones gives him the best chance of winning. Let's remember, they had to make a quarterback decision before their first ever Super Bowl win. It was between Drew Bledsoe and Tom Brady because Bledsoe replaced him in the AFC Championship game. So Bill Belichick has been down this road before. Everything factors into it. Number one is winning.
But he answered the question. He took some time, but then he went back at it on his own volition, right, Frank? And Mina, let me ask you this. When you heard Belichick do that, he was speaking about his team, but the way he said it applied basically to the virus in general in the world, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is true. You can get a breakthrough infection if you're vaccinated, but it's also true that you're significantly less likely to get infected or get sick. And frankly, I don't know why he felt the need to bring up the possibility of a breakthrough infection because it doesn't apply to the situation with Cam Newton and it doesn't apply to the NFL.
And Frank, I think the phrase is, you said the quiet part out loud.
Quiet part out loud.
I know quiet does not apply to you in any way. It's not even in your vocabulary.
It's a play on words. Thanks for going along with it.
We'll move on. About Cam Newton, now that he is available to the rest of the league, my question is, Frank, what team makes the most sense, and what do you think Cam's play is?
I mean, clearly, Cam Newton right now is at a crossroads. If you think about the year that he had last season with the Patriots in a quarterback-driven league, he threw for 8 touchdown passes. So he's just not the same player he once was when he was an MVP. If I'm Cam Newton, you wait a couple of weeks, see if there's a quarterback, unfortunately, that goes down, and maybe you can join them. I think he'll be in the NFL this season. If I'm him, though, I wait to see what's the best fit for
Monica?
him.
I personally would love to hear Cam in a booth or actually on I Am Athlete Pod full time. But if he's going to stand in the league,
So you're already there
Houston,
for him at this point in his career?
Got him out.
Get in the booth?
If the rub is that he doesn't want to be a backup outside of Houston, there is no-brainer position where he gets to have an opportunity to be a starter. So I would love to see him in entertainment and media.
Wow, Israel Gutierrez, have we arrived at that point for Cam Newton for you?
Maybe fashion, but he can do that while he still plays football. I just don't think that there's an NFL head coach or GM that says I can win a Super Bowl with Cam Newton. And even if, you feel like you might be close or a couple pieces away, you'd probably still want to go younger and, aim for, 2 or 3 years down the road. You look at all the quarterbacks just going through the league, cycling through the league. The AFC East is so young now that Mac Jones replaced him. I just don't see a future for him as a starter. He can get to a high-profile situation and be a backup, sure, but I'm with Frank. I think he sort of waits this out and waits for that desperate team that might have an injured quarterback, and he can go in and start.
And now Mina Kimes on Cam Newton's future in the league.
Yeah, it really depends on what Cam Newton wants. If he wants to be a starter, I agree with Izzy. The best move is to simply wait. Football is a violent sport. Quarterbacks get injured all the time. And aside from Houston, there really aren't any opportunities. Now, if he's willing to be a backup, that's where it gets interesting because he would instantly be the best backup in the NFL. And to me, that's when you start looking at playoff contenders like Dallas or Tennessee, where the depth behind the starter, who's entrenched, is not good, and Cam might actually enjoy being there.
One more story here. The Jeff Darlington report that Brian Flores held a team meeting with Dolphins players and in it addressed the Deshaun Watson trade reports and rumors and said Tua Tagovailoa is our quarterback. Israel, you're in Miami. Do you feel the Dolphins are solidly behind Tua?
I do believe that, and I think some of the things that doesn't get spoken about enough in regard to this trade rumor is Deshaun Watson, with his no trade in his contract, said Miami was his top choice, or reportedly has Miami as his top choice. So why wouldn't the Dolphins inquire, right? And then when he was asked about it, well, of course, had to somewhat be honest and just didn't lie and said he doesn't really talk about that stuff. They did create some question marks around here whether they were behind Tua or not, even though he's had a pretty good preseason. I think they're behind him. I think that's what happened. It feels like that you wanted to find out what could happen with Deshaun Watson, or just inquire about whether even a trade was possible, because at this point you wonder if Goodell would nix a trade sort of like David Stern style. So I think they've sort of recovered a little bit. They had that team meeting, said Tua is our quarterback, and Mina mentioned some of the best backups in the league. The Dolphins are in pretty good shape. Jacoby Brissett, really, really good backup behind Tua.
Mina Kimes.
Well, first I'll say I can think of a lot of reasons why the Dolphins should not inquire. And Izzy, I know you didn't mean it this way, but obviously everyone's aware of the fact that Deshaun Watson is under investigation, criminal investigation. 22 women have accused him of sexual misconduct. And that inquiry, and this is where I think the Flores thing comes into play, it's not coming from Brian Flores. It's coming from the owner. Not necessarily that he's making the call, but we all know a decision of this magnitude falls on Stephen Ross. So it's great that Brian Flores supports Tua. I'm sure he loved to hear it. But in the context of Deshaun Watson, it's meaningless.
Frank, do you believe the Dolphins are solidly behind Tua here?
No, I don't. And I think last year they benched him. I think in today's day and age with quarterbacks and head coaches, they have such a short time where they have to prove that they could win. Look at Sam Darnold, what happened to him. Look at Josh Rosen. 1 year he was out with the Cardinals. So I think Tua knows that, and he has to be thinking, do I really need this as the season is about to start with my owners talking about Deshaun Watson? Brian Flores right now, I think he's trying to regain control of the locker room. I think the owner put him in a really tough spot. What was he supposed to say? We all know that Tua is going to start week 1, but after that, I guess it's a question.
Monica McNutt.
I mean, if you dig into the numbers, 64% completion rating, 6-3 in starts, and 2 of those wins he gets credit for. Fitzpatrick actually finished those games. There's certainly reason to understand why Tua might be feeling some heat. But to Mina's point, if your scruples can handle it, the numbers that Deshaun Watson puts up, I mean, those are really viable in terms of taking this Miami Dolphins squad to the next level.
Israel Les Woods.
Yeah, there was a Barry Jackson report in the Miami Herald that said Stephen Ross does not make football decisions, so to imply that he was not pressuring to inquire about Deshaun Watson. But, if it comes from the top, what are you supposed to say, right? You probably are going to inquire and just see if anything could happen there.
That's our horn taking a break right here. Look at those scores. At the Paralympics, racers with certain degrees of visual impairment, specifically those with little or no light perception, race with a guide. Have you guys seen this? This is amazing. It's beautiful. Connected together by a tether or band at the hand or wrist, running side by side. The guide can't cross the finish line first or pull the athlete. That's a DQ. The guides are incredibly accomplished athletes themselves. The great Libby Clegg for Great Britain, multiple medalist in 2016, and she'll run later this week. She's teamed with Chris Clark, an Olympic hopeful himself. And look for American super sprinter David Brown with Moray Stewart in the next 100-meter race. Yes, both athlete and guide win medals. We'll be back by ourselves in a minute.
Pretty good.
That's awesome.
Really cool.
That's great. I don't think this line in the sand is particularly solid. I mean, he's got to show up to camp, and if he doesn't, he's going to come up with those fines, right? And then beyond that, you're leaving the last impression of you not taking a layup in the postseason. When you really look at it, this is a guy that was 56% from the field, 14 points per game over the course of the regular season, has a ton of accolades. Yes, he has values, but I think he needs to help himself. Philly should just sit on it because he's going to have to get involved.
Frank Isola.
Yeah, at the lowest point of his career, Embiid kind of threw him under the bus, as did Doc Rivers when he was asked, can Ben Simmons be a championship-level point guard? He said, I don't know how to answer that question. Right in the aftermath of losing, to me, they shouldn't have done that. Ben Simmons, I believe you can salvage him. He needs to shoot better from the free throw line. Remember, Giannis, poor free throw shooter, 7 of 19 in the biggest game of his life. Ben Simmons can do it, but that part's up to
17
him.
of 19, yes. Mina Kimes.
Well, I'll draw on my investing background here. You don't sell at the bottom, and I believe this is the bottom for all the reasons we've discussed with Ben, the playoff performance, and now the trade request, which is sapping the Sixers of leverage, by the way. They must love that. To me, they got to stick this out, like Monica said, because whatever offers they're getting now are probably the worst offers they're ever going to get.
Israel Gutierrez.
To me, this was never a Ben Simmons and Embiid rift. This was about just not being a great fit. While they might have sort of butted heads a couple of times, it wasn't the reason they were supposed to split apart, right? It just didn't seem like there's that many teams that have a center like Joel Embiid that you're going to plant in the post and then a guard who won't shoot the ball. So it just might be better for everybody if they part ways. Now, the asking price, I think, is going to have to come down because everybody knows it's better for everybody if they part ways. So yeah, Daryl Morey doesn't have to get a superstar in return. He can get a couple of nice pieces around Joel Embiid and still create a finals type of team.
Buy or sell 2, hang Gary Cohen's call in the Louvre.
He scores, and the Mets win it!
In the midst of that slide and
Thumbs around.
celebration, Javier Baez lost an earring, and even team president Sandy Alderson, who 2 days ago was decrying Baez at the thumbs down gestures, was looking for it in the grass and dirt. Frank, did this win in this earring search, which they found the back, but not the most important part yet, the stud, solve all those thumb issues the Mets had?
Nah, I'm not sure just a couple of games is going to do it. I think Baez was smart, as was Lindor, to apologize. Why do you want to get in a battle with the fans that you're never going to win? But give Sandy Alderson a lot of credit, because you know that he reprimanded them, and he's out on the field looking for the diamond earring. That's a guy who's a military veteran, a cancer survivor. He's out there looking for a diamond earring, for crying out loud. Pretty good.
Well, it wasn't just Alderson. Apparently, they had the analytics team helping them out. And to me, that does mean something. Like, this was a group effort. The Mets are banding together. Now, as far as the fans, second they start struggling, they're going to boo again. But the team is together.
Right.
Has any team had any more potential turning points and not actually turn? Like, you have the owner saying to have a tweet that say, I can't believe these professional batters can't hit. And then all of a sudden they have one decent inning even, and hey, that's the turning point. And now you lose an earring, and this is what's going to change things?
Well, if you take 3 left-hand turns, you keep on turning. If you take 3 left-hand turns, you're right where you started, Israel.
yeah.
Monica
End up in the
McNutt.
same place.
My only contribution to this is, as someone who once searched an entire IKEA parking lot looking for an earring, probably of significantly less value for it to be in the car, check your teammates if it's not on the field. Somewhere in there, it's somebody's
are you saying somebody, that would be another issue?
No.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's
what do we think the
somebody's
number
pit leg
is
hair
on
shoe.
this earring, right? I mean, we're talking about Julio Jones once went over
20 grand.
100,000, I believe, when he lost it. By the way, the analytics department is who's going to solve this. As a former stat boy, I believe I can say this. I got a guy in Coney Island with the beep, 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 beep on the beach. That's who you go to. Let's move on.
Exactly.
Buy or sell 3, PGA Tour looking into banning fans from sassing Bryson DeChambeau with chants like Brooksy for his feud with Koepka, which happened this week and nearly led to something with DeChambeau responding. Israel, buy or sell?
I'm selling it, and that's the reason why, is because Bryson responded to a fan calling him Brooksy. That's why they are creating this. If he would just not say a thing and just not have this thin skin, it would just be fans being fans. But earlier in the summer, he had a fan thrown out for saying Brooksy, so now all the fans are triggered. They know what gets it under his skin, and they're going to keep doing it. It's weak sauce from Bryson and the PGA.
Monica?
Beyond the fan relationship, the relationship between the two of them, Brooks and Bryson, like, the whole thing is stupid, and you guys started it. So now you're coming down on the fans? Like, no, the players need to get it together.
You know, there are yahoos that attend every sporting event. I mean, poor Trae Young got spit on at a game. I don't think them mocking him by saying Brooksy is that big of a deal. Come on now.
Nina Khan.
Other things to worry about.
I'm selling the idea that the PGA can stop this, because this is schoolyard stuff. That's the equivalent of the principal coming over the top when he needs to bring the 2 kids into his office and have them work it out. This is between Bryson and Brooks, not the fans.
Gutierrez, Monica McNutt, thank you for today. Frank Isola, Mina Kimes. This is a rivalry. Showdown. 2 minutes.
Say it out loud.
I wore my best earrings.